Welcome to Beyond the Blueprints. I'm your host, Jason Smith. This morning we are in downtown Greensboro at the beautiful Center City Park. Just a lovely morning in the mid-60s, my kind of weather. So this morning I'm here with Dr. Ahir Khan, running for mayor of City of Greensboro.
Right.
I'm going to read a little brief introduction and then we're going to jump right into some questions. Dr. Khan is a seasoned executive and strategic leader with over 15 years experience driving innovation across public service, education, and economic development. As Chief of Staff at J&A Solutions, he helped expand fiber internet access to rural communities. Now running for mayor of Greensboro, Dr. Khan is championing a housing agenda aimed at making home ownership attainable for working families by reforming exclusionary zoning laws, expanding access to low-interest loans, and leveraging city infrastructure investments to reduce development costs. Recognized as with the Triad Business Journal's 40 leaders under 40,
That's right.
and a community foundation game changer, Dr. Khan brings both his business acumen and community vision to the table. So good morning. We're going to jump right in.
That.
Yeah, man.
We
yeah,
should have
man.
mentioned that
So,
we were members of the Guilford County school system
That's
here.
right. So
graduates of Guilford County Schools.
Before we jumped on air,
Yeah.
both of us were just chatting. We're both born and raised here in Greensboro, or the
That's
area,
right.
and actually went to school around here, except
right.
for Charlotte. You went to Charlotte, but
That's right.
then UNCG, then High Point University.
That's right.
Okay, and I went to Guilford College.
That's
so,
right. But I don't hear Laughlin Elementary too often. So shout out to all my
Laughlin
Laughlin Elementary schoolmates. You don't hear that too often.
no,
here,
you
so
don't.
That's
And
pretty
you went
cool.
to the old.
Yeah,
school,
old
right?
Laughlin
Yeah.
before it was professional development.
That's right.
So yeah, I was lucky to be born and raised here in Greensboro.
Very cool.
So yeah, no, thanks for having me on the
Yeah,
show. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to talking to everybody and just getting to know me a little better and understanding where I'm standing and why I'm running for mayor of Greensboro.
Okay. Well, the first thing we're going to talk about is public safety.
Okay.
Obviously, in the news now with the Charlie Kirk stuff and just everything going on, I think people just are on edge.
Mm-hmm.
Even before that, I think people feel kind of on edge. What's your stance on public safety, and what are you going to try to do to help make people feel safe and want to come downtown?
Yeah, I mean, look, without our men and women in the uniform protecting us, whether it's police department, fire department, EMS, EMT, whoever it may be, we're thankful for them. And they always need to feel secure in their funding, feel secure in their safety, and secure that the city backs them. When I'm in trouble, I'm calling 911 and I'm having Greensboro police come rescue me. The issue right now is that we have in Greensboro, all the stakeholders are not communicating successfully. Mm-hmm. And so as a bridge builder of being the chairman of the Interfaith Council, bringing different faiths together, different groups together, working for National Conference of Community Justice as a board director for social justice, there's a time now in Greensboro to bring everybody together. The police department, the faith community, the business community, we have to work together. They have to know that we support them and they support us, but there has to be a better opportunity to make sure that we're assessing, do they have all the right training? There are 80 languages now in Guilford County schools. Do they have all the right training to deal with all 80 languages? Greensboro police came to our mosque a week ago. There was someone that was killed here in Greensboro, and it was a Moroccan man. And the Greensboro police came to our mosque, explained what happened. We were able to have a question and answer session. It was textbook perfect way to answer. If you went to Harvard or you went to Princeton and say, how do we answer public administration questions in this situation? They said, that's how you answer it. Tragedy has occurred where the communities are devastated, police department's devastated, the Muslim community devastated, the Greensboro community devastated, but the police department comes to the mosque, takes his shoes off, comes in respectfully, sits down, breaks bread and answers questions from the mosque staff, members, volunteers, community members of what happened. And I think for me, as an interfaith leader, working with Christian, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, everybody, agnostic, atheists, any faith, we can communicate that with the police department to make sure they have the proper training and the proper tools. To be very honest, they don't have the proper tools. When our police department is going out fighting crime every day, we have not even equipped them with things that they need. When a family had someone pass away in a retaining pond at Adams Farm, the police department was really handicapped on what they could do. If the police department had a water drone that day, they could have went into the water to find out that there was a young person trapped in a car and a mom had to sleep overnight knowing that her son was trapped in that car. But the police department, when they got to the scene, didn't have the tools to understand how is someone trapped in there or not. So as the city council, as the mayor, we have to work together to do an assessment and give the police department the water drones, the air drones, the training with 80 different languages, the interfaith community dialogue, and that's what's going to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm. What about just on a little higher level, but what about all the different departments, local, state, federal, whatever that may look like? Where's the disconnect on them working together as far as, I mean, I feel like there's, they're all there maybe, but they're not communicating.
Yeah.
I mean, I just,
Sure.
when I see big, large events and things, I just don't feel like they're all together in unison.
Yeah, and I think there's a real simple reason why. We've had a food desert here for over 10 years. People on the east side have to travel 10 miles for a fresh grocery store. That's not Greensboro. When you have economic challenges in a city, it takes the love and the priority away from things that you want to focus on, like community building, because people are going after Maslow's hierarchy of needs: shelter, housing, food. And if you don't have those basic needs, how can you focus on community building?
Yeah.
And so everybody is sequestered in their own silos because we have food deserts in Greensboro, we have a homeless situation that's out of control, they're not getting the proper mental health assessment, we're taking away porta potties, we're not allowed to feed them behind me anymore, we have to feed them under a bridge. We're not expending a day center to give them, 100-day beds, 100 showers, 100 mental health counselors to know people, hey, if you're homeless and you have no place to go, there's a place you can go in Greensboro. The nonprofits here, the IRC Center, thank you for what you're doing, but we need to either invest in them or somebody else to expand that opportunity so people in Greensboro have some place to go. When all those issues are resolved, then these people will come together because they're going to realize the basic tenets of a city are in place: safety, health and welfare for everybody, economic opportunity. And I think when we also focus on economic opportunity and bring people together, because I think Greensboro is in silos, and you said it perfectly. Everybody's telling me that's why I'm running for Greensboro mayor, because I've brought people together all my life. At Guilford Tech Community College, I was the president of the staff association. That was an elected position where I was elected to work with all the staff members, to work with the board of directors and the faculty to get things done. And so, as mayor now, I think if we bring those people together, we won't have that problem. So when the fair happens, you're going to see everybody communicating, hanging out, have a fellowship, because we have common interests and common solutions. Right now, everybody's trying to work on their own department, own sector, which is not the way we should run.
All right, well, let's move along to growth and planning for our city. What kind of infrastructure is needed to keep Greensboro on a positive growth path? And when I say that, I'm talking about specifically like facilities and parks and things of that nature, like Tanger Performing Arts Center, the Aquatic Center, First Horizon Coliseum, Gate City Boulevard. What kind of things, infrastructure-wise, do you think the city needs to help move forward and keep a positive growth pattern?
Man, how lucky are we to have these assets in our community? When we grew up, we had Grimsley High School pool. That's where I had my swimming lessons growing up. And now they have an aquatic center. Now they have a Tanger Center. Before we had Tri-Stage, which is phenomenal, but now we have, Tanger and the theater. If we don't upkeep these assets to the community, we're gonna lose to Raleigh and Charlotte 7 days a week. 7 days a week we're gonna lose, because when someone wants to bid on coming to Greensboro, facilities are upkept versus Charlotte and Raleigh, we're probably gonna lose those opportunities if we don't keep it up. So for me, it's important that the money that taxpayers have already put into these institutions, we upkeep them to the best of our ability. When you have an aquatic center that's considered an Olympic-sized pool and is considered, one of the top venues in America, water erodes that sediment a lot quicker. So if you're not upkeeping those things on the usual, you're gonna lose that and actually spend more money. So for me, it's important to do a combination of, getting some federal and state money involved to ensure that, we have the proper money to fix the infrastructure, but also to ensure that what they're charging for tickets is enough return on investment for them as an organization, but also enough for them to pay for some infrastructure establishments. I have a lot of friends that are season ticket owners at Tanger, and if I told them that $10 is going to fix the Coliseum and the Tanger Center on every ticket they buy, they'd pay $20, because the amount of people that can afford that ticket price can afford a little extra surcharge to cover some assets in Greensboro, especially the ones they're going to. At the Coliseum, I'm going to Ric Flair, wrestling matches, Sting, Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, The Rock. So I'm used to wrestling matches, rock and roll concerts, and so we have to upkeep that too. So the same thing can happen, but not a high of a surcharge, right? So that way we're not raising taxes, because the worst fear I have is that we're going to enter the next 4 years, and the next mayor, next city council is going to say, well, guys, guess what, guys and girls, guess what? We're going to have to raise taxes. The evaluation period is up for property taxes. The county's going to raise it, and we're going to raise it. We cannot be in that trap. we have to stand up now and give power back to the people and say, no, we're taxed enough here in Greensboro. Our property taxes, when they went up, were almost top in the nation. And we cannot make sure that our city taxes also stay low. But to do that, we have to fiscally be responsible to the main assets in Greensboro. Love the Coliseum, love the Tanner Center. Thank you for everyone that's done everything to build those, to bring New York to Greensboro, to bring, the Madison Square Garden to Greensboro Coliseum, because it's that amazing of a facility. But without upkeeping it, we're going to lose to bigger contracts. So as mayor, I'm going to make sure that funding takes place.
Yeah. On that note, we just had the recent announcement of Jet Zero. The airport is obviously an amazing asset to Greensboro. We have Boom Supersonic, Marshall, Hayco, and then of course Toyota on the outskirts, with their battery plant. But what do you see as challenges and benefits to attain or maintain growth for companies like this to want to come in?
Yeah, we're lucky that we're in a higher education mecca. You and I grew up here, so we're spoiled. We have, Guilford College, we have Guilford Tech, UNCG, A&T, Bennett, Elon Law School, ECPI, and these schools will give us a pipeline for these jobs. But the issue we're having now is when the companies are coming here, the jobs they're hiring for are phenomenal jobs, but they're 80 and 90,000, sometimes usually require a master's degree or a higher undergraduate degree. We need to bring the jobs here where people maybe on the east side can go into a community college program, or the northwest part of Greensboro, go into a community college program, learn an apprentice, learn a trade, and then go into these jobs. And so for us, I'm super excited. So now, because these companies are here, we have to understand what the symbiotic economy means. And what that means is that there are going to be other spin-off companies because of this aerotropolis we have now in Greensboro. We have a higher education, mecca. We have an aerotropolis with all these aviation companies, but now we need to have spin-off companies that provide, items and services to these organizations that are locally. With Honda Jet, it's amazing. If you want to get a brake pad, you can go to Chick-fil-A, get some lunch, and pick up a brake pad at Honda Jet, right? Because everything is local, right? And so, Hayco is the same way. If you need something done with your airplane, you just go to Hayco and get it fixed. So we need to make sure that we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are willing to bring their ideas here. We're willing to have spin-off companies to support these, aerotropolis ideas. Because if we don't have that consistent job funneling in with these young people, people that want to get retrained, then we're just going to keep hiring out-of-state people to come here and not the people that are local.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that pipeline is consistent.
Yeah, I really feel like that, there's so many jobs around that airport that don't necessarily have to be college educated. They're skills.
That's right.
And so, the GTCCs and other ECPIs or other institutions can really train people on those skills and go after good paying jobs.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. When I was at Guilford Tech Community College, I worked in financial aid, and I was part of the financial aid team, and we allocated $100 million of financial aid that year. So students go in Guilford County that were going to Guilford Tech Community College, that were doing welding, that were doing accounting, that were doing these other associate degrees, it allowed them to get a Pell Grant, to get a subsidized loan, unsubsidized loan, pay for school. The issue we're having now is that we're not training those people enough. If we had more people coming out of these apprentice programs in Guilford Tech, then we could easily fix that $250 million deficit we have with Parks and Rec. Imagine how many plumbing, electrical, construction issues could be solved with a graduating class from Guilford Tech, where they could start off and they could work as apprentices and help us cut some of those costs down, right? So I agree with you. The community college is the backbone of America. Without supporting the community college and these companies just coming here hiring college graduates, it's not who Greensboro is. And to be honest with you, my mayor's campaign is focused on making sure the Northwest, the Southwest, the Southeast, the eastern part of Greensboro has jobs they can do laterally at the community college and talk these companies before we give them taxpayer dollars for the next 10, 15 years. Thank you for coming, but what are you doing for the people of the 30 to 40,000 people that need jobs now, that want to buy housing, that need to get education for the next 2 years and then start a job? So for me, I think to keep those companies happy, we have to build around them.
Yeah. Well, that leads us right into our next topic, is housing. I think it's the backbone of our economy and most economies. I mean, the housing markets create so many factors financially and locally. But what are some things? Obviously, there's a housing shortage. What are some things that you're planning to do? And I know it's on your website.
That's
I
right.
was reading up on you.
Thank you.
And so, what are some of your ideas on helping create affordable housing and just housing in general to fix our shortage?
Yeah. We live in the greatest country in the world. God bless America, that we can live here and someone can work hard and own a piece of land and build their home. But the American dream right now in Greensboro is costing $300,000. That's not who Greensboro is. Developers are willing to build more houses for us, especially local developers. We need to ask them to build houses between $200,000 and $230,000. That way, as if the city wants to subsidize, the potential homeowner from getting $10,000 to $20,000 in subsidies to cut that cost down, it's easier to bring it down from $230,000, $240,000 to $220,000, $210,000 versus $300,000 that house and bring it down to $280,000. I still would not be able to close that gap. So as mayor, I think it's about talking about, and the word affordable housing, I don't even like affordable. It's just housing for Americans. That we have a constituent base here, about 30, 40,000 people that need homes, about 200,000. And so we should have local developers bid on these processes and say, look, I know you can turn around a lot quicker because it's not as big of a house, but everybody wins here. The real estate agent sells the house, the builder builds the house, they hire people to build it, it helps grows the economy, and the American that's working hard with their family, working 2 jobs, single mom, single dad, they can now afford a $200,000 home versus paying an apartment rent for $800 to $1,400 a month for a 2-bedroom. Yeah. When you do an apartment, it helps the people that own the apartments, but it doesn't help the future homeowner. So we in Greensboro have to have a mayor that's going to be Switzerland, in the middle, to say, look, developers, I'm a free market guy, I love what you're doing, I want more American homeowners, we're going to build the tax base up so we don't have to raise taxes in Greensboro, because I know the county commissioners are going to have a tough opportunity ahead of them, but we're not going to do it here in the city. In order to do that, 30 to 40,000 homes will be built in Greensboro, but this is the price range, 200 to 230,000. And then if the city wants to subsidize the people that are building the homes, that's fine. Give them the tax break, give them the tax incentive versus the person buying it. The bottom line is the system's not working. We have to get more people to buy homes and build them between 200 and about 230,000.
Yeah, so Greensboro has this, I'm just gonna call it Build 10,000 or whatever. I don't know specific. I don't know specifically what it's called, but I think it's something about build 10,000. So how specifically though, I mean, because I'm in the real estate business, I work with builders and developers every day.
Sure.
And I hear, I mean, it's in my ear all the time about, things are slow, things are backed up, there's not enough staff or whatever. And I'm sure every city hears the same thing. I don't know that. I'm just making assumptions, but I mean, what can we do to speed the processes up? We're never going to build 10, 15,000 homes if we can't speed up the process, because I can tell you how long it takes to get a subdivision in the ground that might be 100 lots. I mean, by the time we buy the land, go through all the it may be 2 years. What are we going to do if we don't speed the process up?
This is like that movie Rush Hour 2, where it's like lost in translation, because what happens is that the staff is working their tail off, trying to get all these applications done. The entrepreneur is taking the biggest risk of putting their life savings into building a home or someone selling a home, whatever it may be, and it's just not mixing. So for us, it's 2025, it's time to arm our staff with artificial intelligence. It's time to find out how AI can speed the permit process up. It's important to know that we just can't blame our city staff because we know they're working hard, but are we arming them with the right tools?
Yes.
Because the permit process for taking that long, the entrepreneur might get more interested to do development in Raleigh or Charlotte or Mooresville or Cary or somewhere else, and we'll lose them. Yeah. And so even though the state has a time that they have to implement it wise, as mayor, I'll run an assessment, my first couple of weeks, and I'll be able to tell them that says, hey, look, the experts are telling us that what you're doing is fine, but we can speed this up a little bit with some artificial intelligence and some AI. And I think that way the permit process can be evaluated and assessed quickly, because at the end of the day, these permits are about OSHA, it's about standard. We want to make sure that everybody's building safe homes. But in 2025 now, we have to have technology that's helping the city staff members make better, quicker decisions, be more efficient. The private sector is always good at this because they do things efficiently because time is money. Yeah. Sometimes in government, people think, well, that's just my schedule. Well, that's just not your schedule, because these entrepreneurs have put a lot of money into this, and we as a city need their tax base too, so we will all have to work together. So do we have the tools for staff to be successful, to process faster? Currently, I don't think they do. And I'll run an assessment to see where we're at, present that to city council, and ask 5 city council members, can we allow them some funding, some professional development, to come in, look at other cities, how they're moving the permit process faster. I think that helps a lot. Look at Detroit, what they did, right? So I think that oftentimes, we just live in these silos and say, well, that's just the way Greensboro is. No, that's not the way Greensboro is. We are the mecca of higher education. We have to pivot and we have to adjust. And as mayor, I'll do that.
Well, and you brought up a good point. you talk about the private sector being efficient, time is money.
Yes.
And government sometimes doesn't move like that. That's
Yes.
just reality.
Yes.
But if we could somehow bridge that gap, I think
Yes.
you're dead on
Yes.
in that. Maybe people that are in the city, they obviously are great people and they know what they're doing. But maybe we have to restructure how we think and do things.
Sure.
And change is not bad. I mean, sometimes we have to change. I mean, we can't always do the same things we've always done.
As I have a master's in public administration,
Yes.
so I will always defend my city staff because I know that the demand they have from the public is so enormous that private sector only has to deal with the constituents or consumers they're dealing with. The public government has to deal with everybody, and the legal liability they have is enormous. And so if they make a mistake, it could be a lawsuit for the city that could bankrupt us. So I understand why they take stuff very meticulously, but my point of the story is that in public administration, they talk about having technology speed things up a little bit and making sure we're running efficiently. And I think that we can learn that from the private sector where there's some tools we can arm city staff with to move this permit process, maybe even have a committee, right, that reports to the city council directly that says we're setting measurements that this week we're going to approve these many permits. Next week we're going to go up 10%. The week after that, 10%. And let's just see how we can do and measure it, and then everybody's on the same page because this is going to impact everybody's economy. It's not just people that are taking the chance entrepreneur-wise, it's the city. So we have to find a way to be more efficient, and I love to bridge that gap between city staff and private sector.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, some of it is staffing as far as not the staffing itself, but
Sure.
the number of people doing the jobs.
Sure.
Because I mean, if you have so much work come in, you only have so many people doing it. Well, that's an issue that can be fixed.
That's right.
But I belong to Treebeck.
Okay.
And you've probably
Yeah.
talked to Treebeck, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And so they meet regularly with city staff and things, and I think that is just an invaluable thing to do. And we appreciate the staff coming in and letting us give them feedback because that's exactly what you're talking about. There's some dialogue there, and I think it helps them work more efficiently, and I think it helps them hear from folks that things that they need to hear, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I mean, sometimes we need to hear stuff on our industry side, and so I'm real appreciative. And so I will say, the city staff from that perspective, I think it's fabulous that they
Sure.
are always open to talking to people,
That's right.
and I think that's really where you have to start.
Yeah,
And anything starts with dialogue.
Yeah, and
So-
look, they're public servants. They're obviously doing what they can, but we have to run at a more efficient pace due to what's at stake. We cannot, have an opportunity where we're going to increase taxes on people here in Greensboro because
Yeah.
we cannot run a close to $900 million budget efficiently. My opponents have had their chance in office. I'm looking at a fresh perspective here. I've been here all my life. I've got the credentials to do it. I'm asking for the people for their trust to ensure that Greensboro is fiscally run responsibly. We also have progressive issues on housing, food, economics, and safety. Our homeless population needs help, needs assessment. It's not, if any of us could be homeless, any of us, we just saw a couple minutes ago, someone came up here and we were all just filming a segment and someone just came up randomly and it made everyone feel uncomfortable. But sometimes there are mental health challenges they have that we don't understand. But if we don't have a place in downtown they can immediately go that's a larger day center, a larger mental health center, then we're not going to fix these downtown problems. Our downtown businesses are incredible. People want to come here and stay past dinner, but we have to give them more safety reasons too. As mayor, I'll work with the stakeholders to do that.
Yeah, and I do agree. We also have to help people.
Yes,
and everybody has
exactly.
to have a heart to help.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, that's just generally,
Yes.
no matter where you go or what you do, you always
Yes.
need a heart to help.
Yeah, and we grew up here, so when I
yeah.
say that to you, I can tell from when you're talking to me, you understand what I'm saying, because that's
For
who we
sure.
are. In Greensboro,
Yeah.
we're one of the most compassionate cities in America. From a philanthropy point of view, we give some of the most money philanthropy-wise to nonprofits anywhere in America. And so I know the heart, but we have to get back to that compassion part because people
sure.
are really struggling here, and they're not only impacting themselves, they're impacting people around them, and we're worried about them.
Yeah, and I can
So,
tell.
and them. So.
And just when you walk around, and we're downtown City Park today, and the homeless population, you can see, and it is very sad. And when you walk through here, if you don't feel sad and want to help those people, then that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So I just really have a heart to. How can we help these
Yeah.
people? So
well, the thing is, you got to give them.
Needs to be that
yeah,
way.
but the thing is, when we were growing up, there was a place that you could go. I remember there was a boys' transition home called Joseph's House,
Yeah.
and I met a young man that was tough on his luck, and he got kicked out of school at NC State, unfortunately, and he was just trying to find his next step. I was able to take him in. His name's Isaiah, and take him in and put him in a transition home at Joseph's House here in Greensboro, and he actually ended up going to law school and becoming a lawyer. So he's a lawyer today.
Oh,
So he went from being homeless, not having stable housing, to now being a lawyer in Greensboro because there was a support system in Greensboro. The IRC Center, I'm sure, is overwhelmed. I hear about some of the altercations that take place. I'm thankful for staff for holding that down for the city. But either we have to expand it or we have to find another solution, because people just walking around aimlessly without having an opportunity to have a mental health assessment, if they choose to do that, we have to have the opportunity for them. And the compassion in Greensboro is a lot. And you and I have seen it growing up here. And I think that compassion city council can come back when I'm mayor.
Yeah. Well, we're going to finish up. One last thing, if you want to say anything to your folks that are getting ready to go early vote here.
Yeah.
Just what do you got to say? Tell them what you're doing.
That's
Tell them
right.
what's going on.
Hey, look, thank you all for your time today. My name is Ahir Khan. I'm running for mayor for Greensboro. I was born and raised here, but Greensboro is changing rapidly. Housing is $300,000 for a home. They have food deserts for 10 years, and they even have a landfill for 80 years they have not resolved. As mayor of Greensboro, I want to make sure the economic opportunities that come to Greensboro address the young people and people that need jobs. Our community college system here is one of the top in the nation. We need to make sure those community colleges are offering apprentice programs to people to come in, get trained, and then go out there. We have deficits that are going to maybe impact us long term, but if we don't have the right leadership in city council, whether it's the city council leaders or it's the mayor, we're going to go in the wrong direction. So I'm looking forward to working with anybody if elected mayor, and I appreciate to have your vote during the election. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching today. If you want to watch past or future episodes of Beyond the Blueprint, you can go to triadnewhomeguide.com and or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks for joining us.